Well, this week's Wednesday Night War is becoming very interesting. As you know, there's been some surprises and things that took place on both shows that I did not expect, but we're going to talk about it and discuss on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome, everybody, to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, many promotions, matches, wrestlers, and championships. I'm your host, J Rod here. So, this week's Wednesday Night War is very interesting, but let's get into the viewerships and the ratings. Now, this week's winner is not surprised by me, but it's AEW. So they got the views of 764,000 views. Now, compared from last week, it was 717 views. So they went up somewhere over 50,000 views, which is good. But they managed to stay in the same rating, which is 0.30 in the 18 to 49 demographic. However, NXT did pretty well from the previous. However, they did not. They received 632,000 views. Last week it was 610,000 views, and they are currently in the rate of 0.16 in the 18 to 49 demographics. Now I know that people deep down ask why is the viewerships from both shows aren't the same. Now we can discuss all this all we want. However, the only reason none of this happened, it's already been proven during those 3 weeks when AEW and NXT did not collide that the show can do better without them being. Now, however, as you know, because of last week with the election, is still going on. People are still following the news of what's been happening with outside with not only with the coronavirus, but with the recent election that took place, as Joe Biden winning the electoral votes. And I'm not trying to be political or bring politics involved, but that's how it is. Sometimes we cannot um, tell viewers, hey guys, you got to watch AEW or NXT. They're really cool to watch. It's what people watch. But however, since this whole thing with the pandemic has been going on, it's so far not been in that same pattern. It's been almost a long time since W either AEW or NXT were able to reach the 1 million mark. I know they will do that at some point in the future, but right now this whole thing with the world, it's not the same. But please understand, this is how it is with the viewers and rating ships. Now, for all of you WWE fans out there who watch this channel, if you guys complain about it, it's no one's fault. Everybody watches both shows. But however, things are going on in the world and it kind of distracts us from that. But however, let's talk what happened at this week's AEW Dynamite. Okay, this week's AEW Dynamite started out with Taz throwing a promo talking about what happened in Full Gear. As you know, we have a brand new TNT champion, and that is Darby Allin. Now, as you know, Team Taz had their feud with Darby Allin since all the way to Double or Nothing. And of course, weeks ago, before Full Gear, Tony Khan actually told Taz that if Ricky Starks was able to beat Darby Allin, he would have got an opportunity to face for the TNT Championship. So he was upset. Now, this feud between both Team Taz and Darby Allin has been going into a long time feud. Basically, it's more like that. So it's no doubt in my mind that sooner or later, one of these two guys between Ricky Starks or Brian Cage will make a play for the TNT Championship. Basically, Darby Allin knows that there's a target on his back now that he is the TNT Champion, that he will do whatever it takes to retain it. So he has his both eyes and ears already wide open. But it starts out with a great, interesting match. I have to say, it's between Brian Cage and Matt Sydal. Now, if you guys are fans of Matt Sydal, if you knew him before he was known as Evan Bourne in WWE, he was an aerial wrestler, a high flyer. But if you guys have seen him recently in the independents, he's mostly been doing a lot of the striking moves. That is something you don't see every day, especially a guy like him. Now, we can say high flying is cool as much as we want, but when you see a guy like him who spent his years being a high flyer, but now evolving into be a striker, that kind of brings, wow, that's pretty cool. And I think it worked so well with Brian Cage. You look at Brian Cage, he's a big dude. He can do a bit of the hurricanranas, the flips, or moonsaults, and that's one of the things that it makes a lot of sense. You can see that with Matt Sydal, but uh, that's what I like. But of course, Brian Cage won this one as always. And post match, Ricky Starks comes out that the same old thing that he will sooner or later will be recognized and get the TNT championship or whatever he wants to do, since his feud with Darby Allin is growing and growing. Basically, he has his sights set on the TNT championship, but he said he doesn't care who's going to carry it, either Cody or Darby Allin or anyone that is in his way. So we'll just got to wait and see in the upcoming weeks or months how this is going to progress. Now, we all been expecting Cody to speak out about what happened after losing the TNT title to the Darby Allin. But however, we all assumed that he was planning to cash in his rematch clause. Now, if you guys know this, they always do this rematch clause where the previous champion has a right for a rematch. And he discussed this, saying that he has no intentions to, cash it in, because right now his primary focus is obtaining a loss that wronged him, and that loss was MJF. Now, the more he was about to get into this, he was interrupted by some mystery woman who goes by the name of Jade. Now, Jade comes out like saying insultful words, saying Cody Rhodes is a liar, a deceiver. But the one thing that kind of made perfectly clear what was her intentions. Cody, not too long ago, said he's a giant killer. It was referenced him defeating Brody Lee, who was a bigger guy than him. Jay took this into offense and saying that only true giant is Shaq, and that is reference to Shaq O'Neal. Now, I don't know if he will be Shaq O'Neal has an interest in being. I mean, we do know he has a relationship with the TNT network. He was at Full Gear and backstage, um, that sort of thing. And I don't know. It was like, I don't know how fans would feel about Shaquille O'Neal being a wrestler, but we'll just wait and see where they're gonna go. But however, it didn't end there. Here comes Brandy Rhodes. Like, this turned into an episode of Jerry Springer, and she wanted to confront her, saying, "Who is this woman to come in and try to mess with her man?" You know, and that it kind of went in that way. Jerry Lynn got in the middle between them, trying to ensure that Brandy Rhodes keeps her cool. But when things were calming down, Team Taz attacked Cody. Because Taz is still thinks to Cody, he feels that he is a problem, that he proclaims himself as the Prince of Pro Wrestling. However, the more that it appears that they had Cody, here comes Darby Allin to make the save. But Darby Allin had an interesting weapon where he actually was wearing some sort of a jacket with thumbtacks, and he used that on both Starks and Taz. And here comes Will Hobbs give them the helping hand. So it's a pretty good, interesting storyline where they're gonna go. Like if Cody is not gonna make a play for the TNT Championship, so we're gonna see what direction he's gonna go. As for Darby, I do see him down the line either facing Ricky Starks for the TNT Championship. As for Will Hobbs, we still haven't heard yet um, if he's taking the offer to join Team Taz or turning it down. That's still more to come. Now, Moxley was in an interview addressing that he's aware of his opponent that he will face, the number one contender for the AEW World Championship, and that is Kenny Omega. So basically, he knows who he's going up against. He's not an idiot, but excuse me. So he's felt prepared that he's gonna be in this one. So it's kind of interesting how this is gonna go. Now let's get to the bunkhouse match between both uh, the Natural Nightmares versus the Butcher and the Blade. This match was kind of insane. I wasn't expecting a lot from QT Marshall, but him taking a beating, bleeding out, and having Blade bleed out, it's pretty interesting. I have to say they throw in a really interesting match on this one, the bunkhouse match. So, but my favorite moment is when QT Marshall put the fire extinguisher on Butcher and Dustin took him out, and then QT gets into the brawl with Blade, and it kind of went great. But the best moment, Ali was distracting QT, and he got in the way, and Blade almost hit her. But however, it was QT that hit Blade and knocked Ali out and landed on the table. So it was like sweet revenge. But however, it was QT who took the victory on this one for his team. So it was a good match. I loved the way its storyline, how it progresses. So I enjoyed it both. Now, as we all know what happened at the Hardy compound for the elite deletion between Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy gave a bit of a wise words to Sammy that he was a formidable opponent. But now that this thing between them is over, that he needs just to face the fact that he couldn't beat him, that just enjoy life now. Don't waste it. So that's his words. Now we get into the Inner Circle induction. As you know, MJF won fair and square, beat Jericho to join the Inner Circle. There's still tensions between both Sammy and Ortiz. They still don't feel like they like the idea of having MJF. But Jericho is being that guy who's saying that if MJF joins, that they become a much powerful entity in AEW. But however, you don't know what things was happening. If you recall what Bischoff said, how do we know that MJF is not going to stab Jericho in the back? So that's one we are yet to see. And of course, MJF saying that his contribution, he paid for vacation time between MJF, Wardlow, and the rest of the Inner Circle to go to Vegas. So it was pretty interesting how that went down. But however, Sammy was nowhere to be found. But he did show up saying that he got an email from MJF to meet at the beach. But MJF claimed that he sent him a second email that let him know that just meet up at the stadium. So he tried to play cool, but it didn't go. But we'll see how that goes because they're going to show what happens in Vegas next week on Dynamite. Now, we can talk about the newly crowned AEW World Tag Team Champions. I'm talking about the Young Bucks. That match in Full Gear was amazing. However, Alex Marvez actually had to make an interview. He was still a bit nervous because everybody hasn't forgotten what happened. The Young Bucks super kicked them, and they were kind enough to apologize to Alex Marvez, Sorry that we went this far. So basically, they were happy. But they did stated that they are willing to put their tag team titles on the line. However, they said they would like to face off FTR one last time for a rematch. Now, FTR does have the right for a rematch, but however, Matt said that he would rather face a team that have the same kind of brotherly dynamic, and that is Top Flight, who's been appearing at AEW Dark on for the last couple of weeks. So that will take place soon, and I can't wait to see it. So as for FTR and the Young Bucks, well, we just gotta wait and see where they're gonna go. Now, finally, this match was supposed to set up a couple weeks ago. It was supposed to be Shawn Spears along with Tully Blanchard versus Scorpio Sky. Now, this match is a full blown grudge match. As you know, months ago, about a month or two ago, Scorpio Sky saved Matt Sydal in the hands of Shawn Spears, who was about to load his glove with the weapon, and he felt that Sky took that opportunity for him, that he was a thief, and of course, Tully used his head for a very interesting tactical move. He distracted the ref in two different ways. One, he left an extra lead metal thing in his glove, and leaving one for Scorpio Sky to be distracted, unaware that he did this in order to ensure Shawn Spears get a winning a winning chance, which he did. And Scorpio Sky's not happy with the idea how this turned out right in the end. But Shawn Spears, he's satisfied that he got what he wanted. So I'm not sure if this feud between them will continue, but we'll see how that goes. Now the next match is between Tay Conti and Anna Jay. And as you know, Tay Conti is friends with Anna Jay, and Red Velvet is friends with Brandy Rhodes. Now, this is an interesting dynamic because both of these women, Anna Jay and Brandy Rhodes, hate each other after what Anna Jay put Brandy Rhodes in through because of what happened. And I'm not going to say it's one of the best matches, but I say it's a very interesting storytelling with both these women. You got Tay Conti, who's backed up by Anna Jay, and you got Red Velvet, who's backed up by Brandy Rhodes. So, but however, it did show a little bit of Tay Conti's victory on this one. So it showed more what she can do. She is an AEW star, but however, in the storyline, it's still unclear whether if she will join the Dark Order. Now, the next thing we see before we get to the main event is Eddie Kingston coming out talking about how this thing between him and Moxley took a toll on him. This is far from over. Now, he will not stop until he accomplished the one thing he wants, is to become AEW World Champion, which took him 18 years to get, and he was very close. But enough of that, he was there to watch the main event between the two brothers, Lucha Brothers, Penta Cero Eme, and of course his brother, Rey Fenix. Now, this is a very interesting storyline in this one during the match. During commentary, Eddie Kingston likes what he was seeing. However, Tony Schiavone was questioning Eddie Kingston's motives, like about how in Mexico it's perfectly illegal to rip off a masked wrestler's mask, but here in the United States it's perfectly legal. And Penta tried to remove it, and then he was happy that Penta was removing it. But however, when the roles were reversed with Rey Fenix, he calls that a criminal. It's more like he's pushing Rey Fenix out of the way, and he's preferring Penta the most. But the match ended with Penta's victory, and of course, here comes Eddie Kingston telling him that he's his best friend, that he needs to get rid of Rey Fenix. He's nothing but deadweight. But the biggest surprise was the return of the bastard Pac. And we haven't seen him for 8 months, and he called Eddie Kingston a scumbag, that he's here, that he hasn't forgotten. So this is going to be one hell of a rivalry between those two. But the real question is, Will he reform Death Triangle? Well, I'll give you guys my final thoughts on that later on in this episode. So for now, let's just move on with NXT. All right, so it's NXT time. It started out with Johnny Gargano throwing a little interesting promo where he has this Johnny Gargano Open Challenge. So basically, he put the North American title on the line. So instead, he wanted to break the curse of spin the wheel. Now, there is a speculation that this spin the wheel must have been fabricated. So, anyway, you asked me how that happened. Well, if you looked at the wheel, it looked more like he wanted to ensure he gets a much easier opponent. And that opponent that he thought would be easier was nothing than Leon Ruff. Now, the match was like, okay, Johnny was trying to get away with it, trying to ensure he wins. But however, he got side distracted by the former North American champion, Damon Priest. But the biggest upset was Leon Ruff actually winning the match. Stunned everyone. Even Damien Priest was happy. And not only because Leon Ruff is, how do I say, the new North American champion, it's because how dumb Johnny Gargano was. He issued a challenge and he thinks is invalid. Problem is, Damien Priest had nothing to do with it post match. He eventually decided to meet up with Leon and tell him, look, Johnny's pissed. If I were you, take my car and get out of here. So basically, he was enjoying himself, seeing how much he has lost at this point, knowing that Johnny got away with it, but however, this time it kind of went south for him. So even though he refused to accept that he set this match, even though he did, so he wants William Regal to reverse, but even though William Regal doesn't like the way he's been behaving, so the answer is going to be no. Now, the next match we have is the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. As you know, for a while, Santos Escobar has been deceiving everyone ever since he came in as Hijo de Fantasma. He deceived everyone to ensure he wins the NXT Cruiserweight title. And ever since he won it, revealed himself that he is the leader of a faction called Legado Fantasma, who's trying to bring respect to Lucha Libre. However, many wrestlers believe that he who faced Santos Escobar that he's not a champion. He's a deceiver. That he always makes sure he has his cronies, both Raul Mendoza and what he doesn't make the claim. He says that he beats them fair and square. We've seen that with Drake Maverick. We've seen that with Isaiah Swerve Scott. But much of the last 2 weeks, Jake Atlas had made a move against Legado by attacking Joaquin Wild and Raul Mendoza with the crowbar, believing that this could be the helping hand that he needed to ensure he gets a victory over Santos Escobar. And the more that they try to help, the more they were still injured. But however, ref kicked them out of the ring. But somehow Santos Escobar was able to beat uh, Jake Atlas when he was trying to do the cartwheel ring rope DDT on him, but it backfired. So he continues to be our current NXT Cruiserweight champion. I'm still waiting on the whole thing with Jordan Devlin. I will love to see that, but we'll see how that happens. Now, next thing we have is Shotzi Blackheart giving a message to Candice LeRae for what she's done. A week ago, Candice LeRae felt that she was robbed from the opportunity to obtain the NXT Women's Championship back in Halloween Havoc. So she thought by destroying her tank that everything will be even between. So basically, it's more like she's saying that this is far from over. And she took something from her. The tank isn't something that, she thinks that what it is a representation of who she is that made her who she is. If you guys don't know this, she revealed that her father was in fact in the served with the U.S. military, and that is something understandably because, of course, it was Veterans Day on both shows. So this is going to be an interesting rivalry between both Candice and Shotzi. Now, next thing we have, it was supposed to be Raquel Gonzalez versus Xia Li. Xia Li set up this match against Raquel, but Boa, who we've been seeing for a while, sending letters to Xia Li, was telling Raquel that she's not there. They had to pull her out, and Raquel was not happy, and she took out Boa, beating him up senselessly. While she left, this mysterious guy came out like a messenger, marked them. I don't know what exactly it is. It's kind of like I don't know what they were doing. There's still more that they're not setting up when it comes to Xia Li and Boa. Like we do know, if you guys know this, they're two of the wrestlers who are Chinese descent, all the way from China. But not a lot is being foretold what is going on. All we do know that Xia Li's been getting letters from her family and asking for some opportunities. I don't know what is that, and I'll explain more about that in my final thoughts on this one. Now, as you know, Austin Gray attacked um, Timothy Thatcher during his little demonstration as payback for, as you know, Thatcher likes to demonstrate the pain that he gives to his opponent when he's teaching wrestlers how to do their moves. But however, August Gray actually took it too far, and of course Thatcher took him out like while he was being interviewed. So this whole thing, but later all of a sudden it turned out that he has to face Dexter Loomis, and Dexter Loomis and Thatcher were part of the Triple Threat series where originally he won, uh, but we'll see how that goes. That will be a later match. Next thing we have is Tony Storm versus Candice LeRae. Now, this match was a way to Candice LeRae to show that, she can beat Tony Storm even though she is a big time name in the world. Um, Not only that, she calls her a punk rock poser. I would not mess with Tony Storm, but she somehow was able to beat Tony by cheating as always. However, Tony will not take the loss likely, but out of nowhere, this mysterious figure we've been seeing using the scream mask attacked her, and here comes Shotzi Blackheart making a beeline towards Candace. But however, this whole thing was not enough. But later, it was revealed who was behind the mask, and that person was none other than Indy Hartwell. So she was behind to ensure that Johnny Gargano won. I know there were people that speculated it was Austin Theory, but we just don't know yet if this whole thing with him actually is uh, a shoot or an actual story. We don't know, but we'll see how that goes on that in a while. Now, Breezango sent a message to um, Birch and Lorcan. As you know, those two, Danny Birch and Orny Lorcan, became the new NXT champions when it was revealed that Pat McAfee insured the Danny Lorcan and no Danny Birch and Orny Lorcan win them due to the fact that they have a rivalry. It decided to say that they are taking over NXT, replacing the Undisputed Era. As for Breezango, they're not happy with how the results went. They spent years trying to build up their momentum for 5 years, and now this was taken from them. And they didn't take this very likely, but they said all fun and games will be put aside, that they're going to take this seriously. So they're not messing around. Now, the next match we have Timothy Thatcher facing off against Dexter Loomis. This is one of those matches that I do enjoy. As you know, if you know Timothy Thatcher, his background as a catch wrestler, uh, and of course, Dexter Loomis. I love this dynamic, but however, it ended up with Timothy Thatcher winning. But however, his rivalry between Cameron Grimes and him is not over yet. Apparently, Cameron Grimes got his little payback, and he said he was happy that he covered his head with his eyes with this bag, that he is going to the moon. So he thinks he's cocky that he gave him a lesson of a lifetime that beat him up. So we'll see how that goes. Now, as we know, we've been seeing Tommaso Ciampa how he's been behaving. He gave like this interesting motive. He was talking about Harley Race and Killer Kowalski. I'm not sure if this is like kind of like similar with the Gargano way, but Tommaso Ciampa wants to bring that. It's kind of very interesting, but I wasn't much sold yet on it. But I love Tommaso, but we'll see. Now it's been finally been official that we've been waiting for. Io Shirai and um, will face off Rhea Ripley for this and for the NXT UK NXT Women's Championship. I can't wait to see it. I'm very excited how this is gonna go. So I'm hopefully we're gonna get a chance to watch it. Now, this also the latest news came out. Finn Balor will address next week about his status. As you know, he ended up injuring his jaw during that match at Takeover against Kyle O'Reilly. But we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see the Prince come back. The next thing we have is the NXT Tag Team Championship. Now, as you know, Pat McAfee is now saying that they are the world's greatest four-man crew. You know, ever since they took out Undisputed Era, making sure that they're the ones who take over, saying Undisputed Era is done, they're a thing of the past, and they're going to take over. So much of this, you've been seeing Pat McAfee ensuring that Birch and Lorcan continue to become tag team champions. But however, Drake Maverick came out to help Breezango because of what happened. As you know, they attacked both him and Dane is now in not clear to wrestle. And it's a matter of time until so. But however, Birch and Lorcan retained the titles. Later became a full-on melee where Pat McAfee, Dunn, and Birch and Lorcan were able to try to beat them out, saying that they are the world's greatest team. So, what's going to happen? I don't know. Do I think Undisputed Era is going to come back? Well, we'll talk about that in the final thoughts. Okay, so let me give you guys my final thoughts. What do I think about this? Which show had the best one? I feel right now, to me, I feel the edge has AEW because there's still some storylines that they're putting out that I feel is right. Like look at Team Taz. Taz, Taz is still upset knowing that Ricky Stark should have been getting an opportunity of the TNT Championship, but now it feels that Starks has his eyes set for the title. He doesn't care who has it. He doesn't care if it's Darby Allin or Cody or anybody that challenged the title, but he will get that title. That's his focus. That's what he wants. And this thing with Cody, with the promo, I have to say, is kind of interesting. But however, what does this mean? Do I want to see Shaq O'Neal there? I feel we did this before. If you recall, WCW brought in basketball players involved. You had Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone. I feel like they should just leave that out of it. I mean, you guys should agree with me. I feel like they should have just kept that out. But this whole thing with Jade and Brandy, that is something we definitely need to see more often. Now, the bunkhouse, Man, that was a good match. I love it. I mean, I never heard of a bunkhouse, but it was fun. Not to mention, you can use all the tools out there, the toys that they use. Seeing Allie get throwing it through a table, that is sweet. So I love this. I hope there could do more bunkhouse matches like this. I love it. Now, what are my thoughts about Inner Circle having MJF? Well, I still have that thing where MJF could stab Jericho in the back and he tries to take over of the Inner Circle. The reason I say that, there's always those guys that saying, okay, I'm in, but we're going to stab them anyway in the back. That's always that goes in my mind. Do I see something like this coming down the future? To probably I do. But are we going to see it? I don't know. But I'm sure we'll love to see that happen if it does. Now, my thoughts about the Bucks facing Top Flight. That is an interesting thing. Now, I know some of you would say we should see them face against FTR. Now, I don't know exactly. Now, there was a news report coming out saying that FTR are done with AEW. They did state it, saying that this thing with the rivalry with the Bucks was a little too soon. I think they were trying to build up more of the storyline. As you know, we've been waiting for this match for us AEW fans, those who've been seeing being the elite, how they were saying this FTR or F the revival, that sort of thing. That is something we've been waiting for. Do I see a possible rematch? Yes. But the real question remains when. That is something we need to pay attention. Now, what do I think about the match between Scorpio Sky and Sean Spears? To be honest with you, I don't know if this could go further because Sky needs to focus more on trying to make it to the top. Same thing with Spears. But the storyline is pretty interesting where Sean Spears felt that what it was robbed from him was hurting Matt Sydal and Sky helping him. That's one of the things. Now, but I want to skip ahead and give you guys my other thoughts that I've been thinking about. Now that Pac showed up, what does this mean? Is he going to reform Death Triangle? The way I could picture it, I don't know if any of you guys could see it. I see that Eddie Kingston could try to manipulate Penta to toss him out of his life. And Pac would take Phoenix with him under his wing, knowing that Eddie Kingston is a manipulator. If you guys recall of what happened when he had that little promo a couple weeks ago, a few months ago, where he was talking to both Butcher, Blade, and the Lucha Brothers, getting in their face. He had that look where he was winking, like he had this sort of game. And I don't know if Pac saw that or what he would say. But I could see somewhere down the line, Pac comes back, and if he sees that Ray Phoenix is not being treated fairly, he could take him under his wing and reform Death Triangle with someone else, which would be an interesting dynamic. Unless Penta can see that, oh, you're a lying piece of garbage for doing this. You know, you're telling me I should get rid of my brother. That is one of those things that it could fall into play. So I don't know if you would see that. Now, what are my thoughts about that open challenge match that Gargano? I have to say I like how Damian Priest is doing this approach, saying, "Hey, you put this on yourself. I had nothing to do with it, but it was so funny. You lost that way, trying to break a curse that you thought you can break." And I thought it was pretty amazing. Of course, Damian Priest, I know he will get that title back, but however, I think him enjoying Gargano's humiliation, it's pretty sweet because it kind of shows you screwed up, Gargano. You brought this upon yourself, even though Gargano will never admit that to himself. But we'll go see how that happens. Now, right now with the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, I'm right now want to see the one match that I feel could make right. I'm talking about Santos Escobar versus the Irish Ace Jordan Devlin. Now, you can ask me, why would I picture that? Two reasons. Jordan Devlin never relinquished the title. Because of the pandemic, it kind of put him on the sidelines. And not to mention because of what happened with the speaking out movement. He was seeing that, okay, they were going to do an interim cruiserweight because he was unable to put the cruiserweight title on the line. But however, they decided, just call it cruiserweight. I would see Jordan Devlin confronting Santos, and he's telling Santos, never bet against the Irish Ace. And Santos would say, you can't touch me. But what if Jordan Devlin does obtain the cruiserweight, making himself the true champion that we all been seeing? But however, he has to go through a couple obstacles. I'm referring to Mendoza and Wild. But I would love to see that. Now, there's many factors I would see. I'm going to skip ahead to keep this short for the final thoughts. This thing with Pat McAfee, I have to say he does have some good promos. Even there are people who can back it up and say it. But my initial response, how I would say, this we should see a rivalry between which of the factions could take over. I'm talking about Pat McAfee's group versus Undisputed Era. This is what I could picture. Let's say we haven't heard from them for a couple weeks. All of a sudden, someone is making these attacks against Pat McAfee and his crew. Who could that be? Undisputed Era reclaiming their kingdom. And Pat McAfee will say, you guys are a thing of the past. We are the future. Your time is up. But you cannot deny that they have fulfilled the prophecies, obtaining all the gold that they need. I'm talking about the NXT Championship, Tag Team Championship, and of course, the North American Championship. You don't see Dunn or McAfee making a play for those. But the idea what McAfee is trying to prove, hey, this thing with you guys is cool. I'll form one of my own, and we're going to take over. We're going to prove that we're better than that. So, that's how I see it. But do I see Undisputed return back? I would love to see that before they go to the main roster. I think that's what fans would love to see. Now, hope you guys enjoyed this episode of me reviewing the Wednesday Night War between both AEW and NXT. I know there's more to come. Can't wait for next week's both shows, how they're going to be. However, friendly remind you guys, I will cover soon NXT UK 205 Live, and of course, New Japan Strong. And of course, gonna spend almost a month covering World Tag League and the Best of the Super Juniors. On December 12th, we got the Super J Cup. So will be a lot of things that I'm gonna be covering for all of you guys, reviewing, and we'll see from there where we're gonna go. But for now, I'm a bit tired, had a long day, but I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, mwah, and have a nice day. Bang!